Hi guys, and welcome to my showcase and tutorial on Item Perks. Item Perks is a plugin that enhances Rust's everyday equipment, such as weapons, armor, tools, etc. And offers them one of many perks that can help in day-to-day life. So let's jump in and I'll give you a bit of an explanation about what it's all about. Okay, so the plugin allows items to be fitted with perks, and these are basically rolled when the item is made, and can be obtained in a number of different ways, in which I'll be going through later. When you are holding a piece of equipment that is an item perk equipment, you'll see a little button here. When you don't have anything equipped, the button disappears, so you don't have access to the menu, so it's no sort of unnecessary clutter. When you do equip a piece, however, the item will appear in the menu, where the little button will appear indicating that you have a piece of enhanced equipment attached, and you can open it up. And you'll see here you'll be presented with basically a picture of the item, the perks that it has, the modifier of that perk, and then there's a total running bonuses down the bottom, which is basically a combination of all perks across all items. So let's throw my gear back on. I'll show you what that looks like. Now notice that if I click on the button here to open up the menu, my weapon isn't actually here. If I equip my weapon and then open it, you can see my weapon is now here. So if I click on the individual pieces, you'll see that the top part changes, showing you what the name of the item is. So if it has a fancy name, it will replace it, otherwise it will just show Rust's vanilla name. As well as the stats and the modifications for each of those stats as well. And down the bottom you can see that it isn't actually changing. So this is just our total value for all of our stats combined. Now if we want to see, you know, what Beastbane does, or Sharkbane, or Durability, or Durable, or Smelter, or any of these sorts of perks do, we can access it by clicking on any of the perks, whether it be on the top menu or the bottom menu. Doesn't matter. And you can also change in between without this menu actually sort of changing as well. So an example would be the Durable perk. And on this little option, this little window here, it shows you what each of the perks actually do. So this perk reduces the durability damage of all equipped items, and it also shows you the minimum and the maximum percentage rolls for an individual piece can achieve. So any of your gear hunters can sort of try and hunt for the best in slot items and what have you. So you can see here that with the piece that actually has durable on it, which is the boots, we have 7.9%, so we're just kind of just above average in terms of what we could have rolled. The floor being 5%, the height being 10%. And yeah, again, simply just reduces the durability of all equipped items. Now, items can have multiple perks, as you can see here. The metal chest plate has 3 perks, whereas the kilt only has 1. The M249 only has 1. It's just random. You can set how likely a piece of equipment is going to have more than 1 perk in the config. It's incredibly configurable. You can set the limitations, how common it's going to be, and you can obviously set different ways that players can obtain it, as well as how often that gets obtained, etc. So you have a lot of control over how little or how many of these items are released into the wild on your servers. You can see again the total bonuses down the bottom here. This is just simply a total value. If we have a look at, see if we can find any duplicates here. Flak jacket, we've probably got a bigger one on there, which might have actually been pretty lucky and not got doubles. Yeah, so I can see I got Beastbane there, I got Sharkbane there. So yeah, there's about 50 or so different perks. Of varying types. If you're familiar with any of my other plugins, such as Epic Loot or Skill Tree, you'll be familiar with how these perks kind of function. But if you're not, then in the sales page you'll see a description of basically what each of them do. Yeah, so that's it for the UI side of things. It's pretty straightforward, nice and simple. Doesn't clutter the player screen when they don't actually have any pieces equipped. And the plugin's quite economical in terms of resources. It actually doesn't subscribe to any of a lot of the hooks when gear isn't actually being worn by anyone on the server. So it's been taken, that's optimization's been taken into account as well. Okay, so in terms of how the perks proc and how they trigger, so certain perks will do certain things as mentioned before. An example is the Forager perk. This perk increases the amount of resources gained when picking up map-generated collectibles. These include things like hemp bushes, pumpkins, potatoes, diesel barrels, and that sort of thing. And this is just simply, as you can see, it's just a flat rate increase. So if we were going to receive, 10 hemp from a bush, we would probably receive 11 because we're at 13%. If we were going to receive 100 hemp from a bush, we would probably receive 13%. 113 because that's our yield increase there. Other perks include Butcher, which is more for skinning. Beastbane, which is more of a damage increase. So there are perks that increase damage. There are perks that increase defense against certain enemy types such as scientists, sharks, animals, that sort of thing. You've got perks that can increase your smelting speed, give you elemental resistances, so resistance against fire and heat, as well as radiation and other perks that actually increase your luck for components and electronics and scrap and everything else. So there's a lot of variety in here, and one of the beauties of this plugin is you can disable any perk that you don't want to be active. So if a perk's disabled, no weapons will roll with it. And you can also set how often or what the chance of a specific perk is in comparison to others, so you can make certain perks more rare than others if you find that they are game breaking. Now moving on to how players actually obtain these items, there are I guess two primary ways and then there's a secondary way. So the first primary way is to loot, and that's either crates, barrels, or any sort of map lootable in the game. In the config, you'll have the option to set what the drop rate chance is for each barrel or each container type. So, a barrel 2 is going to have a different chance to a crate normal 2. And when you open it up, you'll see a couple of things have happened. I got a notification because I'm running the UI Notify plugin. It says you found an enhanced item. Check your chat for more information. You can see here that I found an enhanced compound bow. It tells me what the perks are off the bat. And you can see here there's our compound bow. Now in the config, by default, we don't give any special name to these particular items, and unskinnable items will just be default. Items that have skins will be assigned a random skin by default, but players can change the skins as they please. There's no issues with skins being put onto weapons if they wanted to reskin their equipment. So if we pull this bow down, equip it, and open our inventory, we can see here we got pretty decent roll on the melee ward, and fabricate. We actually got a really decent roll. So basically what this is telling me here, we actually got 3 rolls on this perk because my config allows for multiple of the same perk to be rolled onto the item. And the easy way to tell that is if the perk exceeds what the maximum value is, chances are it's been applied twice. So we actually got a compound bow with melee ward and 2 fabricate perks on it, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty much the main way to find them. The second way is actually by crafting. So when you're crafting items at a workbench, such as weapons, armor, tools, you can set the config value to basically set what the chance is that the players will receive an enhanced variant of what they've just crafted. So if a player crafts an AK-47 and they are lucky, the regular AK-47 that they crafted will basically be given a random set of enhancements and a skin, or it'll inherit the skin that they crafted it with. Sorry. So yeah, players can actually craft these bits of gear as well. Again, all these can be disabled, so you can completely disable looting from barrels or from crates or from all sources if you want to. And that brings us to our third option, which isn't so much for players being able to find them, but more server owners being able to allocate them. And that's using either a chat command or a console command. The console command can of course be called from other plugins, such as GUI shop or whatever else. And the syntax is just simply ipgive, and you can see we've got the syntax here. We've got ipgive, the target, which is generally the Steam ID of the player or the name, and then we've got the optional short name and the optional perks. Now, if you want to nominate the perks, you have to nominate the short name. An example of how we can use this is we can do IP give new and just put nothing else in. You can see that I just received some burlap trousers. So if I pop them on, you can see what we got. We got the smelter perk on those. If I wanted to be a bit more specific and say I want to give myself, I don't like trousers, I want to give myself a hoodie. I say IP give new hoodie. You can see that we've now received a hoodie with perks on it. Again, just a random skin's been assigned to it. And there it is. We've got the butcher perk on it. Now let's just say, for instance, that I really kind of wanted to have a few more perks on there. I didn't want to, just receive the one perk. I can then go IP give space my target, space the short name of the item, and then we'll say we want to give it lead, we want to give it melee ward, and we want to give it fabricate. Hit enter. So if I close this, put this new hoodie on, click on it, you can see we now have random rolls for lead, melee ward, and fabricate. You can also do the same thing over and over again as well. So if I just wanted to make this a really heavy jacket, and because I'm an admin, I can bypass any of the base restrictions of having a maximum of 3 rolls. I can just say, okay, well, here we go, we've now got a jacket with a lot of lead resistance. So it's obviously multiple leads all propped up into the same perk. So that's that's pretty much the way you give items, or how you can obtain items in item perks. So basically, we've been running on testing it on my server, and my players have basically loved being able to find weird combinations of perks and hunt for the ones that they want. That works really well on PvP and PvE. So yeah. Now moving into I guess the difference between this and another plugin like Epic Loot. Now Epic Loot is more of a set-based plugin where you have one particular piece, like a miner's piece or a lumberjack's piece or what have you, and then by finding multiple of those same pieces, we then give the ability to give set bonuses. So players can get different perks, and you can add or remove whatever set bonuses from whatever set types that you want. So both of these actually, should theoretically work together, because the Epic Loot, as you can see here, doesn't adjust the name of the item. So item perks doesn't adjust the name of the item, whereas Epic Loot does. And Epic Loot is more reliant on the item name. So you could realistically enhance an item that's got an Epic Loot tag on it with item perks. So the two can kind of work together at the moment. Alright, and now, there is actually, one other way, I did forget to mention, of kind of getting gear a little bit more suited. Now, because there's going to be a lot of items that drop that players just simply won't have a need for. There might be a fishing rod, they might receive a fishing rod, or let's just say a pickaxe that gives them a bonus to fishing yield. What they can do is they can actually recycle these items. So for example, this jacket. If we look at this jacket here, it has the regeneration perk, which gives us hit points per second. Now I can turn this on, recycle it, and there's a small chance that I'll obtain a kit, which obviously I didn't this time. Now if we have a look and see what this one here has 3 different perks on it. So because it has 3 individual perks, what will happen is when we recycle this item, there's going to be 3 individual rolls. So I was going to roll once for each of the perks attached to the item to see if I receive a kit. And basically the purpose of this kit is that I'll be able to use it to enhance either an already enhanced piece. You can see here I just got two pieces. I got a enhanced kit for lead and one for fabricate. So I'll just take them out. As I was saying, you can basically use these kits to enhance either an existing piece that's already been equipped but doesn't have the maximum amount of perks on it, or you can enhance a new piece of equipment, such as I want to spawn a new bolt action. So I'm just going to spawn in a workbench. Now, when you open up a workbench, you'll see the Enhance Item button appear. And when you click it, it's going to show you what kits you actually have in your inventory. Now, if you don't have kits in your inventory, it's going to say that you have nothing in your inventory and you just can't do anything about it. But because we are fortunate enough to have a couple here, it shows us what we have. We have the Fabricate kit and the Lead kit. So what I want to do is I want to assign the Lead kit to, let's say a piece that I already have, and I want to put the Fabricate onto the bolt action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Fabricate, find the item that I wish to enhance, and you can see what the result is going to be. Enhancing this item will add an additional Fabricate enchantment with enhancement with a random value. This cannot be reversed. This perk provides you with the chance to duplicate an item upon successful craft. So minimum of 4% and maximum of 10%. So, you know, perfect for when you're roof camping and just crafting at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to click confirm. And we now have our fancy new bolt action with Fabricate. And we actually rolled very bloody well. So there you go, that's it. Now if I wanted to enhance an already enhanced piece of equipment, we're going to add lead. And you know what, we're going to find... you know what, let's add lead to our bolt action as well. Maybe we do want to take it out of our base. So we're going to click on lead, find our bolt action, and again, it's going to tell us what we're doing, what the perk is. You can set additional costs for scrap, SRP, and economics as well, if you want to make there an actual cost involved to do this. And then, yeah, we click confirm. And if I open this up now, we have lead and Fabricate. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So it's actually a pretty nifty little thing. Gives players the ability to find these or randomly scrap items down to get these kit. To rarely get these kits. There's a chance, obviously, for recycling the kit as well as obtaining the kit. The recycle rate by default is like 5% from memory. So it's quite rare that a player will actually get a kit back when recycling items. But again, this is all configurable. You can change it to whatever you like. If you want to make it so kits are more plentiful, then you know, go right ahead. If you want to make them so they're super rare, you can also do that as well. Or if you just want to disable the whole functionality and don't allow players to use kits to create items themselves, turn that off entirely. It's actually permission based, which I can show you here. If we have a look at item perks permissions, we can see we've got permission for crafting. This is basically required for a player to obtain items to obtain item perks while crafting items. This one here allows them to use the workbench to enhance their items. If they don't have this permission, they won't get that button. This one allows them to loot them from containers and from barrels. This one here allows them to receive those kits from recycling, and this one allows them to obviously use this little button here and actually use the plugin functionally. If they don't have this, and you know, they can't use it. So there's a lot of permissions that you can play with, and it will work with a lot of plugins, such as, you know, I see this working really well with professions in a way, shape, or form. If you want to create your own profession that can actually do this exclusively. So, yeah, that's it for the in-game demonstration. It's pretty straightforward. If you're familiar with anything like skill tree or epic loot, you'll be pretty familiar with what the actual perks do. But feel free to have a read up and ask any questions. I do plan on adding more and more perks as it progresses. So just like I do with my other plugins. Generally, if I find a cool idea for one, I'll probably add it to most of them. So yeah, it seems to be the way. Alright, so anyway, let's jump into the configuration side of things now, and we will take a look under the hood. Okay, so we're in the item perks configuration file. We're just going to blast through the subjects here, and I'll give you a very brief explanation around what each of the settings menus do and what they're responsible for. So we have the primary enhancement settings, HUD, and stack settings. So that's what they're all broken down into. So the enhancement settings, we have loot settings, which is a submenu. Chance for a player to receive an enhanced item when looting a container out of 100. So these are, think of these like percentages. So for the purposes of this test, for the test, I set it to 90. So I was almost guaranteed to get an enhanced perk out of a crate normal 2. Whereas, you know, you can see these on the other ones are a little bit more down to earth. So it basically supports any crate. All you need to do is just add the short prefab name of the crate, and then the percentage chance that you want whenever a player loots that crate for the first time. Now, one thing to mention is if one player loots, say, you know, a crate normal 2, and then another player comes up and loots that same crate, that second player doesn't actually get a roll at the at an item. It's only the first person who loots that crate. So yeah, that way you don't have people working around in teams and trying to exploit it. List of items that cannot be enhanced. So these are types of items that we just simply my logic has picked up as enhanceable, but we just don't want to be able to enhance. So we just put any sort of item short names in there, such as, you know, a rifle.ak if you didn't want the AK to be enhanced in there, and it's just simply separated by a comma and then, you know, more quotation marks. Use Rust's default loot profile. True will only give items that player could provide. So basically what this means is it will only spawn items that are basically relevant to that crate. So if you open up a crate normal 2, you're only going to get that mundane shit item that's an enhanced item, such as a beanie or a, you know, whatever else drops from crate normal 2s. Whereas if you open up an elite crate, that you have a chance to receive enhanced AKs and that sort of thing. So by setting that to true, it basically forces it to use Rust's vanilla loot system. It won't have any effect it won't even talk to things like magic loot or alpha loot or anyone else. It just simply uses the Rust loot profile. If you set this to false, it'll just simply throw any old thing into any old crate. So every crate has a chance to spawn any item. So you could get a rifle, an AK from a bloody, you know, a regular barrel, or you could get an Easter Bunny suit, or like all the other stuff that isn't really obtainable. Chance out of 100 for the item to be enhanced while crafting. So this is by default, it's a 1% chance. So when players crafting an item, it's a 1% chance that if they're crafting an AK, it'll actually turn into an enhanced AK and roll some perks. Chance for an item to receive additional perks after successfully rolling its first perk. Now, by default, when an item is being enhanced, we already know that we're going to put at least one perk on there. So what it then does is it rolls another number between 100, and it will basically choose, you know, if more perks are going to get added. So these are decimal places. So if let's just say, for instance, you wanted a fairly substantial chance of getting a second perk, so we set that to say 50%, and then we'd say, you know, 3's pretty, 10% chance for a third perk's probably a pretty good number. But then we wanted to say, you know, we want to have a potential chance of getting a fourth perk, but we want to make it ultra rare, so we're going to say 0.5. So there's a 0.5% chance of getting 4 perks on one item. And that's how that works. And what this means is this then increases the maximum amount of perks that an item can have. So when players are applying those enhancement kits, this is the new magic number. 4 is the amount of perks that a player can whack onto a piece of equipment. Allow items to have the same perk more than once. True. So if players, you know, if we're rolling an item perk and we want to give, say, the Lumberjack's perk twice or 3 times on the same item, just to increase that item's power, true allows that to happen, false stops that from happening. Naming prefix to show that the item's enhanced, leaving this empty will not adjust the item name. So if you leave this as an empty string, you'll just see what I've basically been showing you on my server. There's no names up here. Whereas if we actually set, say, you know, enhanced there, it'll prefix every item. So it'll say, if for example, if these pants rolled, it would say enhanced space pants. So that's how that one functions. Perk settings. Now these are all the actual individual perk settings. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can read the sales page for this when I eventually put them up. But basically the stats or the information within the perks class, you can see here. Simply, you can set this to false if you want to disable that particular perk. You can put the minimum and maximum values for that perk in here. Now, these are whole number values. So 1.0 represents 100%. So as you can see here, 0.05 represents 5%. So an academic perk with 0.05 gives a 5% for that academic perk to do its thing. So it shows you the minimum and maximum mods, which are then rolled and then, yeah, basically applied to the item between these values. Perk weight is how often this perk will be selected. So the higher the number, the more chance it has of this perk being chosen over the others. And it uses a weighting system. So if you wanted to make this one super duper common, you can set it to like 10,000, and chances are that almost every single item will have academic on it. So if you want to reduce it, make it a bit more rare, you can just kind of play around with those numbers and see what works. Whitelist and blacklist. So whitelist is basically a list of items that will be exclusively allowed this perk. So let's just say, for example, the fishing perk or the angler perk, you might want to put fishing rod in there, or fishing rod and then a few bits of clothing. That way, if the angler perk is ever selected, we will then only allow these particular items to actually be selected as the item that we give. Otherwise, if someone of a player is creating an item like a rifle, the player will never get the angler perk on their rifle. Blacklist is kind of the opposite. It'll just kind of work with, it'll give you, it still makes everything available except for the items that you specify. So let's just say you don't want to give the attractive perk to a rocket or a rocket launcher. You can blacklist that rocket launcher, short name, by creating a list and adding it into that list. So that's how the perk settings work there. We've got perk configuration. Now this is more kind of settings for individual perks themselves. So we've got settings for the deforest perk, settings for the blast mine perk, tanner perk, vampiric perk. So you can kind of get down to the nitty gritty for all different types of perks to see what things are included, such as what types of items aren't going to be refunded if the thrifty perk procs, such as gunpowder, explosives, and sulfur. Yeah, you can get really down to the nuts and bolts and set it up. It also has the drop rates. So the drop rates for a lot of the luck perks, such as the woodcutter luck, the mining luck, skinning, fishing. They're all pretty much the same to start. And then it has the things like scientist bait and everything else. List of skins for item types. If more than one skin is added, a random one will be selected when the item is created. So if you have a particular item, if we'll just have an example, if you just always wanted every single pair of pants that ever get created by this plugin to have this particular skin, you can just remove everything except for that. If you don't want to put a skin, just set the value to 0, and it'll just give Rust's default skin. Or you can also just delete the entry there. And you can see here it's just basically generated 5 random skins for each of the items here. So we'll just minimize this one because this is quite a large chunk of it. Permission-based modifiers. So these ones here are really cool. So you can actually create permissions for players to receive items more. So for certain players, like VIPs, or being able to give the permission temporarily using another plugin, such as Skill Tree or any of those plugins that'll kind of give you temporary perks. You can create a permission which allows you to get either higher or lower chance values for looting enhanced items from all sources, and increasing the chance of getting kits when recycling. So if you want to, if you're running my professions plugin and you want to create a plugin that actually gives players a role that gives everyone the ability to try and find these items, but gives a certain player the ability to really get the kits back and being able to use those kits, you can give them a much higher chance of getting those kits back in the recycler. And this is increases in chance. So yeah, basically it still works off the default, but it just simply increases based off of that default value. So let's just say, we have the default value for a crate normal at 5. If you set this at 1%, so if you set this to 1.0, if you created a new permission in here and called it, say, I don't know, item perk dot loot chance 5 or something like that, and then set the value to 1.0, it would then give that player a 10% chance of looting a crate normal 2 and getting an item from it. Enhancement kit settings. So this is more information around the actual kits themselves. So cap the amount of perks that an item can have attached to it. So if you want caps, if you don't want players to be able to if you want to limit how many items a player can have, if you want to limit how many enhancements a player can have on their kit, simply set that value to true, or leave it as true. But if you just want to make it no holds barred, set it to false. The display name is that one that shows when you click on the item that you're recycling. So it's that kind of that prefix that you see in that little box. Watch me not get anything now. Oh, for the love of God. So basically, when you click on the kit, you'll see here we've got the enhanced kit, and you can see when we go back to here, this is what the enhanced kit is. The short name is the base short name of the item. You can see we based it off the item blood, which also allows it to stack, and that is the skin. Sorry, my throat's a bit dry at the moment. Yeah, skin is just the item that I've created in the workshop. You can create your own and upload and adjust that if you like. It's just that white looking box on here. Chance when recycling an item per enchantment per enhancement to give an enhancement kit. 0 is off, so if you don't want anyone to receive them, set it to 0. By default, it's definitely not 50, it's like 5%. So yeah, if you want it at 5, set it at 5.0. Effects to run over the recycle. So to run over the recycle when a kit is successfully awarded. So basically, as you saw when we were getting these kits from these items, a little thing of like a little effect appears on the recycler. That's what that kind of relates to, and that's just an asset prefab. And these are the enhancement settings. So enhancement settings are basically, you know, when we receive an enhanced item, you know, what kind of effect we want to run. So we run that same effect on as we did for the recycling. The currency that if we want to create, if we want it to cost, you know, scrap or economics or server rewards, we can set a value in here and increase it depending on the type of perk that they apply it to. So if you just wanted to have, say for example, we want to charge 500 scrap if the player wants to put a prospector kit onto an item, or 100 scrap or 1,000 scrap for a lumberjack kit, or 50 scrap for a butcher's kit to be put onto an item using the workbench method. That would relate to this cost here. So you've got quite a lot of options for being able to really make this unique on your server. Going to the HUD settings. This is the icon's base position. So this basically shows up kind of in the same place for everyone, and it's just anchored from the center point. So you can set its offset. You can adjust its offset from here, or you can adjust the complete anchors if you know what you're doing. It's up to you. And this will kind of be for everyone. There are commands that you can allow you to force the config values onto players if you change them as well. Steam Workshop ID to use for the HUD icon. So this is again just something really quick one I whipped up, but if you want to make your own, you can, and you can just put the ID in there. Only show the inspector icon when the player has an enhanced piece equipped, so you can set this to false and just make it so the inspector is just always there if you want to. It's entirely up to you. Might prompt more questions as to what it is. Otherwise, I've always found that it's not really required unless they actually have something to put on. And it's also a good indicator to see a random icon appear, once you pull something out of a crate. Show the UI displaying the combined bonuses for all worn/held items. So if you don't want that little bottom piece to appear down here, the total bonuses section, you can set this one to false. Send player specific messages using the Notify plugin. So if you're running Notify, this is just the Notify settings for it. Set notifications with an enhanced item drops from barrels or crates. So you can basically do it for different. You can send notifications for different types of things. If you don't want certain notifications, set them to false. So it might be a bit too much if the player gets if they're currently getting the fabricate trigger and constantly getting notifications. You might decide to turn that off. It's up to you. Last one here is just some quick stack settings. Now, this one here, I've approached a developer around fixing these plugin to sort of suit this, but in the meantime this will work fine. There's two types. You've got the stacking and the splitting of items, of the kits specifically. And these are the values associated. So allow item perks to handle the stacking or the splitting of these kits. So basically what that means is when you attempt to, if you've got multiple of the same kit type, what I have an example here of, if you've got multiple of the same kit type, you can, they'll obviously stack them, they'll be creating a stack there. So if you want item perks to handle that, then set that to true. Otherwise, if you've got a stack manager plugin that's going to do it for you, set that to false. This second one here, I'd only really adjust if you're getting conflicts in your console saying item perks and your stack manager plugin are trying to handle the same thing. Yeah, if you've got conflicts, set it to false. Otherwise, I would leave it true, because as soon as you stack an item that's not meant to stack on top of each other, you're going to have problems. So yeah, if you're not familiar, just leave it as is. If you get console spammed, if it's saying console spam for splitting or stacking, then disable the relevant one. And that's pretty much it, guys. So the plugin will hopefully be going online soon. Yeah, I'm just wrapping up a few things with it, and yeah, if you have any questions, any suggestions, always take them on board. I've got a Discord that you guys can join as well for support and everything else. I only offer support to players who have obviously validated their purchases, so and it kind of helps me helps me make a living. So everyone who's supported me in the past, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, again, feel free to hit me up on Discord or on any of my on Codefling or Bloat Design or any of those channels. Usually pretty chirpy. Was away for a little while and I'm back now, so cool. Enjoy.